You're 62. You finally got your mornings back. Your pension is hitting on time. Your doctor says your blood pressure is the best it's been in a decade. And then she walks in. Smells like lavender, laughs at your jokes, and suddenly you're wondering if it's time to update your relationship status. Stop. Before you let that word cross your lips, before you call her your girlfriend, you need to understand something that no one is talking about. That single label, that casual, undefined, semi-committed status might be the most expensive, exhausting, and medically dangerous decision you make in your entire retirement. I'm not saying don't love. I'm not saying don't connect. I'm saying that after age 60, having a girlfriend is not the same game it was at 30, and your body, your bank account, and your brain are not equipped for the ambiguity. Stick with me through all 5 reasons, because reason number 5 is the one your cardiologist won't tell you, and it could literally determine how many years you have left. Let's start with reason 1. I want you to meet Robert. Robert is 64, retired engineer, plays golf twice a week, and 3 years ago he started seeing a woman he met at a wine tasting. They never moved in together, they never talked about the future, they were in that modern gray zone, just boyfriend and girlfriend. Robert thought the low-grade stress was normal. The waiting for texts, the wondering where he stood, the Friday night negotiations about whose house to sleep at. Here's what he didn't know. Researchers at UC Davis published a study in the journal Psychoneuroendocrinology, tracking over 300 adults between ages 56 and 87. They measured cortisol, the stress hormone, through saliva samples taken multiple times a day. What they found was remarkable. When older couples shared positive emotions together, their cortisol levels dropped significantly, lower than even their own individual happiness could achieve. But here is the flip side that no one headlines. When the relationship is ambiguous, when you're not fully partnered but not fully single, your nervous system stays in a state of low-grade vigilance. At 64, Robert's body was pumping cortisol like he was still working 60-hour weeks. His blood pressure crept up, his sleep fragmented. His doctor couldn't figure it out because Robert never told him about the girlfriend. Your nervous system after 60 is like a vintage sports car. It looks classic on the outside, but the suspension doesn't handle potholes the way it used to. Ambiguity is a pothole, and a girlfriend, by definition, is ambiguity with a smile. That brings us to reason 2, and I need you to pay attention here because this is where the math stops being romantic. Meet James. James is 67, retired high school teacher, solid pension, owns his home outright. He started dating a woman 3 years ago. She had her own place, they kept finances separate, it felt safe. But James started noticing something. The dinners out, the weekend trips she suggested but never fully paid for, the little emergencies, the car repair, the dental work, the loan that was always paid back next month but somehow never was. James sat down last December and added it up. $38,000 in 3 years. Gone. Not stolen, not scammed, just bled out through the soft tissue of a girlfriend relationship. Now, before you say James was foolish, consider this. The FBI reported in a single recent year, over 92,000 adults over age 60 reported financial losses from fraud and exploitation, totaling $1.7 billion. Romance scams are a massive piece of that. But here's what the headlines miss. For every man who gets outright scammed, there are 10 men like James who simply bleed money through a relationship that has no legal guardrails. A wife has legal standing. A girlfriend has social expectation. You are not her husband. You are not her financial planner. But after 60, with decades of provider conditioning in your bones, you will spend money to maintain that title. It's the gray money drain, and it doesn't feel like exploitation because it happens one dinner at a time. If you're seeing yourself in James's story right now, I want you to pause and comment below. How much do you think you've spent maintaining a relationship that was never going to be permanent? Drop the number, no judgment. Let's see the real math in that comment section. Reason 3 is where most men realize they've already made this mistake and they don't even know it. Meet Michael. Michael is 62. For 15 years, he had a standing poker night with 3 men he'd known since his 30s. They weren't just friends. They were his stress relief, his reality check, his emotional infrastructure. Then Michael got a girlfriend. Nothing dramatic. She never told him to stop going. She even said she encouraged it. But slowly, the Fridays became every other Friday, then once a month. Then Michael realized he hadn't seen his friends in 4 months. Here's the data that should terrify you. In 1990, 55% of men reported having at least 6 close friends. By 2021, that number collapsed to 27%. We're living through a friendship recession, and heterosexual men over 60 are the hardest hit. Why? Because when men find a romantic partner, especially in later life, they outsource their emotional needs entirely to that woman. Your girlfriend becomes your therapist, your social director, your only confidant. It feels efficient, it feels intimate, but it's a trap.
Those male friendships you think you can pick up later, they atrophy like an unused muscle. And here is the medical reality. Social isolation in men over 60 is as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. When you trade your male friendships for a girlfriend, you are not gaining connection, you are consolidating risk. Michael's poker nights weren't just fun, they were a biological necessity, and he traded them for a relationship that, statistically, has a higher chance of ending than his marriage did. Now let's talk about reason 4, because this one is psychological and it's sneaky. I want you to meet David. David is 69, spent 40 years as an accountant, raised 2 kids, buried his wife 5 years ago. Finally, at 64, he started to feel like himself again. He liked his quiet mornings. He liked his old jazz records. He liked not having to perform. Then he got a girlfriend, and David became someone else. He bought a convertible he didn't want. He started wearing jeans that didn't fit. He pretended to care about farmers markets and boutique travel. He was, in his own words, going through a second adolescence. Psychologists call this identity amnesia. After 60, most men are finally free from the provider role, the hunter role, the performative masculinity that defined their working lives. Retirement is actually an identity consolidation phase. Your brain is trying to settle into who you actually are. Introducing a girlfriend disrupts that process because the girlfriend role demands performance. You are not just David anymore. You are David the boyfriend. And David the boyfriend has to be interesting, attentive, and slightly younger than his knees actually feel. Your 60s are not the time to audition for a new role. They are the time to finally own the one you've earned. But reason 5 is where the rubber meets the road, and I need you to hear this with both ears. Meet Thomas. Thomas is 68, healthy, active, no history of heart disease. He kept a girlfriend for 5 years, never moved in together, never married, just this pleasant, ongoing, undefined companionship. Thomas thought he had the best of both worlds, freedom and company. Then one Tuesday morning, Thomas woke up with chest pain. Emergency room, blocked artery, stent. He survived, but his cardiologist noticed something strange. Thomas's inflammatory markers were through the roof. C-reactive protein, the silent killer marker that predicts cardiovascular events, was sitting at 4.2 milligrams per liter. Anything above 3 is considered high risk. Thomas wasn't overweight, he didn't smoke, he walked daily. So what was inflaming his arteries? It was the relationship. Here is what the research reveals, and this is the part that should change how you think about your entire social life. A massive study using data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey followed over 73 million older adults. The results were clear. Married men over 60 had significantly lower all-cause mortality than never married men.
Men living with a partner also saw protective effects, but widowed men, their mortality risk spiked. And here's the kicker the researchers didn't emphasize, but the data screams. The danger zone isn't being single. The danger zone isn't being married. The danger zone is the ambiguous middle, the girlfriend zone. Thomas was in that zone, not single enough to have the low stress and high autonomy that protects single men, not partnered enough to have the cortisol buffering, health monitoring, life-sharing benefits of a committed spouse. He was in the worst possible physiological state. Chronic low-grade stress from ambiguity, chronic low-grade inflammation from unmet expectations, chronic low-grade financial strain, and no one in his life with the legal or social standing to call an ambulance when he didn't show up for breakfast. The girlfriend relationship after 60 is medically toxic because it offers all the stress of commitment with none of the protective structure. So what do you do with this information? Do you become a hermit? Do you swear off women? No, the data actually points to a binary choice, and it's elegant in its simplicity. After 60, you have two healthy options. Option 1, you commit fully. Marriage, cohabitation, legal partnership. You go all in with clear boundaries, shared resources, and the social infrastructure that actually lowers your cortisol and your mortality risk. Option 2, you stay gloriously, structurally, intentionally single. You build your male friendships back up, you protect your finances, you consolidate your identity, you own your mornings. What you do not do is drift in the gray zone, paying slip fees for a boat you don't own, waiting for a storm that statistics say is coming. Your nervous system cannot handle ambiguity at 35, and it certainly cannot handle it at 65. Your wallet was not designed for open-ended romance without legal guardrails, and your heart, both the emotional one and the muscular one, needs either the full support of a committed partner or the full freedom of a self-directed life. If you made it this far, I know this message found the right person. Comment below with the word gray zone if you recognize yourself in any of these 5 men. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button now. This channel is men's relationship talk after 50, and we don't do fluff. We do the research, we tell the truth about what happens to men after the midlife line, and we do it without the politically correct filter that gets you killed. Your next chapter doesn't have to be a cautionary tale, but you have to choose it deliberately. Choose wisely. I'll see you in the comments.